You're probably wondering, how the hell do we go from Love is Blind, conservative men getting dumped, to a 1990s wrestling with offensive stereotypes? Well, I'm going to draw this through line. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll make it make sense, I promise. WWE, say what you will about this company, but for the longest time, they have had their pulse on what working class, young white people, especially men, were thinking about in terms of society, in terms of sexuality, in terms of politics. They had Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter versus the Sheik, and I forgot the guy's name, but he was like a communist heel or what have you. Then later you had your John Cena as your stand-in for Eminem. You had JBL, I think was his name, as a stand-in for George W. Bush, and actually boost the popularity of one Donald Trump, who was actually a hero in the context of WWE before he ran for president. And he was liked by that crowd. So then, well, not then, but late 90s, they introduced this character. And he was a popular character who was a pimp, who was surrounded by these scantily clad women, and how they were treated and degraded, and you assume that they work for him or whatever. And now, even as a youngster, of course, I was offended for a bunch of reasons, but I was also confused. I knew in my brain it wasn't strictly racism where they had this caricature, because there were other Black wrestlers who didn't have anything nearly that offensive going for them. And I'm sure you can talk about all other kinds of things with Vince McMahon and racism and sexism, but I was low-key puzzled as to not only why this character was introduced, but also why he was so popular. But then it started to make sense when I realized that this character's popularity waxed and waned around the rise of the so-called pickup artists. In this movie Magnolia, starring Tom Cruise, his whole thing, that movie came out around the same time that this character, the Godfather in WWE, was at his zenith for popularity and relevance. That character's whole thing, Tom Cruise, I mean, was convincing men that they had to use certain ways to charm women, to get women to do what they wanted sexually, to hypnotize them. And it was a whole thing. Of course, he was a fraud. But the point was, this type of thinking and this type of subculture was on the rise. A little while after that, they had an actual, I think, book come out by this guy. I think his name was Neil Strauss, called The Game, about the whole in the world of pickup artists. And then they had that stupid VH1 show about the pickup artists, where these guys got on there and tried to pick up women. And that's where the whole thing with negging came from, where you go out of your way to make a woman feel like crap, and then she's supposed to be more attracted to you. And from there, you got your incel culture, your red pills, and your Andrew Tate, an actual human trafficker who was pardoned by none other than WWE's own Donald Trump, a man who is on record for being successfully sued for SA. See, I told you I'd find a way. But if you're still wondering, you're still not getting where the connection is, I'm going to make it make sense. There is a subsection of men who are not merely angry that they no longer have the easy access to women that they feel entitled to as far as sexually, but also financially. They cannot control women. And what does a pimp do? He controls women. He gaslights them, he abuses them, he manipulates them into serving his needs sexually and financially, to the point where he's able to also convince those women to go out and satisfy other men sexually. And the understanding when those men pay is not merely that they are paying the woman, they're paying the man for access to that woman. So again, you have a situation where men are admiring and exchanging goods, which they don't see women as people, but as goods, with other men. They are using their access and control over women to impress other men, which is why so many of these men admire an Andrew Tate. They don't care that what he does is gross, harmful, and disgusting. They wish they could do it too. They want to be like him. They want to be like Donald Trump, which is why so many voted for it, because at the end of the day, these people align with their thinking. So when you have conservative men who want to go after liberal women, it's not merely because of sex. They appreciate that these women offer it more freely, but it's about control. They want to be able to control a woman. And again, you probably think, well, shouldn't they go after conservative women who are lining up to be controlled? For these type of men, the whole point of power and control is that they take it. They want to take power from these women in their lives. They want to control them. They want those women to surrender and be under their thumb. They don't want a situation where the woman volunteers, because not only does she believe in similar things, she will hold him to those conservative values and standards. She will expect him to go out and earn all of the money and provide for and protect their family. She will take that oath to God seriously and hold him to it. A liberal woman who is more progressive, a lot of progressive women have left the church, and if they ever walk through the door, whereas conservative men are flocking to the church. Again, you might be confused. If more men are going to church than ever, then isn't that like the opposite of pimp culture? How many churches are headed by men who use them to enrich themselves, who are narcissists and egotistical, and get off on the idea that they have so many people under their control who they can exploit financially, and in some cases, because scandals involving church leaders doing what they shouldn't with other people, sexually. So again, you have men who claim to be about certain values, who that is merely a facade. And what they really want at the end of the day is power and control